year ago.
Yeah, so
Like,
this is go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, Baby AGI came out in like 2023,
Yeah,
and
I remember.
we've been talking about agents since then, at least. Um,
Yeah. See, this stuff has
now
moved fast, though. I
it's
want to say it
moving
was.
really fast.
I want to say it was 2 years ago. You created an avatar of me as a lark. You sent this to me,
Yeah.
and it was. You were like, "Hey man, check your inbox. I'll send you something." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Check it. There's me speaking in my voice on topics I would talk about in the style I talk about. I'm like, "Where'd you get this?" You're like, little Hey Jan, little 11 Labs." That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was when HeyGen's like real like cutting edge avatars were in early access. So I got early access to them because I pretty much signed up for all the tools indiscriminately. And then whenever they're like, "Oh, you're off the wait list," I'll just try it out. The key is really to just jump in and just use it. Like, you're a human. None of this stuff is going to be beyond your comprehension. Otherwise, it wouldn't make a good product, right?
Right. Right.
So if there's no tutorial, you should be able to figure it out with a few clicks. So that's usually my approach.
Yeah. I think that's smart though. That is the only way. You joke about breaking the tools, but like that's how learning happens. A lot of these tools, as we've now figured out, some are good for some things, they're not good at the other. Others are good for that thing, but not the some. And you start to figure out, what is the difference between Midjourney and Dali and Sora. Like there's a use case for all of them in certain places, but they're not all the same.
Dolly sucks. Always. Dolly sucks so bad. Midjourney or Ideogram. I use different image generators for different things though. Like, so Ideogram, I use that more for um like banners, logos, more like branding, right? Midjourney, I use that for usually for like making like visual elements for my videos.
Right?
Hmm.
I think that's not enough people do that, and they're frankly embarrassed and afraid. Like
Yeah.
you're broadcasting this out over a bunch of channels. Kudos to you. People are worried how it looks. Like we're so early in this AI process, no one knows. So you got to get your hands dirty and just you look stupid at times, but that's okay. Your early videos were kind of grainy. They were basic. Now amazing. Did you get there through the process?
My old videos were actually too wild, but that's where the technology was at the time, you know?
Yes.
It also took me 9 hours to render each one of those videos. It wasn't like,
I remember you complaining about that. You were like,
yeah,
dude, I go to bed, it's rendering. I wake up, I'm hoping it's done by then.
and still going, right? And I really didn't know what the output was going to be either, because how I made those videos is I would take the first time I did it, the first one, I was just kind of messing with the different parameters. I didn't know anything at all. But
Right.
once that video finished rendering, it was moving like on. I can actually show you really quickly. It was just moving on a Z axis, and it was insane. I just realized like, oh, this is what's possible. This is what I can do. Yeah, so the first video I ever made is only like a few seconds long. But you see how it's like rotating? Well, actually, of course, you already know. You were there when I first made this video, actually.
Right. Yeah.
But
So the
once I
early
saw
AI,
that, I was like, oh, you can control the camera using these numbers. And then that's when I started to do not that, this.
yeah.
So what I did here was I took random images and video clips that I had on my computer, and I just kind of stitched them together. They didn't really make anything, but I added transitions and like kind of smoothed out the frames a little bit. And then I ran it through Deforum using a Google Colab notebook because I didn't know how to code back then. So what came out was basically a vid to vid style transfer mask
Mhm.
over the video that I created. And I
So
was like, mhm.
no, I just want to comment on this. This is the piece where I love that you're building just roll to just stitch together, see what it does. But I also want to comment on this is where you have to have the strategy around what are you trying to create. In your case, you were very strategic. You were just creating to learn, like you wanted to know how to do it. A lot of people, when you can press the button and automate the stuff, are just putting out garbage. That's my fear. But this is a great early examples of how far the tech has come.
Oh yeah. And the style, like, so this one right here, the very next video I made, this was in the same day even as that, because once I made one video, I was like, oh, I can do a lot more. So I
Right.
tried my hand at this Legend of Zelda video.
Mm-hmm.
The music is great and everything. That's why I leaned into animated music videos. But there's a lot of, you'll see a lot of like artifacts, right? A lot of AI wonkiness. Like you see
Yep.
that blue right there. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's it's unique. It's very novel, this like video style. And you actually can't make these kind of videos anymore because the models are deprecated.
Yes. But so this is
Yeah.
my point though. You don't want to get too lost in the tech that you don't actually have the business in mind longer term. You did. You kept in mind where you were going with this.
Somewhat. I didn't really have a trajectory. I was, like you were saying, I was really just making these just to experiment, just to learn the technology, because I was doing that real deep dive. This is like around the time when GPT-3 came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was in research preview. And so I was just so enthralled with the capabilities of large language models that when Stable Diffusion was released, I had to jump right in. And most people were just making static images. So that's why I decided to take it to the next step and start making videos. And that actually ended up paying off a lot, because one of the things that, oh, what was that company? Do you remember?
Which one?
Oh, dude, what was it called? They were really popular on Instagram, and they were making like $1 million a day just
Making
doing
AI
just
videos?
doing avatars.
Oh, character
You
AI?
know the end.
Was it
Yeah, with
character?
AI. No, no, no. It was oh man, I cannot remember their name.
In
Um
video, Hey Gen.
it was before all of that existed. No, when I mean avatars, I mean PFPs, like static images.
Oh, yeah. I know who you mean. God, let's go. They're not around anymore.
They're not around anymore. Or maybe they are. I don't know. I
Dude,
can't
this
even remember
goes
their
back.
name. So they must.
Do you remember Jib Jab? You remember
Oh
Charlie
yeah,
the
my
Unicorn?
mom used to love Jib Jab actually.
Charlie the Unicorn? Like that's good. This goes way back.
Hmm. Oh man,
Um,
Charlie the Unicorn.
the
Old
man better be on
YouTube.
fire. Get on! It's a Candy Mountain, Charlie. All right, so here's my point. We need to have brand building, right? Is where you start. The tools are great. Don't get lost in the tools. You got to experiment with them. You got to learn how they work. But like AI makes content creation easier. But the point is that you need to differentiate what you're doing. You, Keith, have built a very nice style, Louis. You have made a very notable, identifiable aesthetic from playing around like this. And that's
Yeah.
much the way a writer develops their written voice, if you will, or, Joe Rogan has his style of podcasting. It's going to be the same with these AI tools.
All you got to do is show up. That's
Right.
really it. Your own voice, your own style. It's gonna seep through no matter what you do. It's like when you spend a lot of time with someone in close proximity, you learn like the certain like nuances and the subtle dynamics of their character, of who they are. They can't hide it.
And to your point, you may not know what your ultimate aesthetic and brand is going to look like. That's okay. But you need to know there's going to be an emerging theme, feel, and you have to have a general idea of what you're looking to do, right? You want to be able to say, I'm not sure exactly what my show is going to be, but I know what it's going to be, but to focus on these types of things. But we're doing this right now as a build in public experiment, you and I. And it's like, well, we know we want to help people with brand building, AI tools for creating income streams. We don't know exactly what it'll look like, but you go into it with your head on of, okay, we're not just making motion here, right? There's movement and progress. So step number one is make sure you know that you're building a brand. A lot of people don't. They're just toying around. In the case of this experiment here, we're doing, we'll take deep research and start to figure out how we can build a company for poops and giggles, just to see how it goes. But like, you got to build a brand. You then have to have content visibility. You're going to have, in the old days of the funnel, it was easy. We talked about this, the linear funnel. Remember this?
Yeah.
Click on my profile, follow to my landing page, go buy my stuff. That's not how it works anymore.
Yeah. So my approach to that was not really intentional. Like I said, I was just really just showing up every day and experimenting with the tools. And as I did that, more people could, because like you were saying earlier, I think we weren't even on stream yet, but you were saying like, I just put the stuff out. It didn't matter what it really looked like. It was just that I did it. It took time. I put in the effort. I showed up, and this is the output. And I just kept doing that consistently and not just leaving it at that either, though. Whenever I put out a video, I would look on Instagram or wherever I was posting, mostly on Instagram at that time, but I would look for other artists that were making better videos than me.
Right.
And then I would reach out to them and I would tell them genuinely what it is that I appreciated or what caught my eye about their video. And in that interaction, because like people are very accessible when you're in a specific niche, right?
Yep.
Like in the AI space, I talked to some research scientists and postdocs that have like these incredible credentials and these long storied careers, but they have like 100 followers or something.
Right.
Because they're not Brad Pitt, right? They don't have the mass appeal. It's just this they do very important work in a very specific sector. And
no, please go ahead.
Oh, and so like what I would do is I would reach out to these people and I would say, "Hey, I really love this video. And by the way, here's the latest video that I made." I wouldn't even say like here's the latest video that I made. I would say in the latest video that I made, I used these motion parameters like for my camera. I used these prompts. I'm using Google Colab Notebook as opposed to like an IDE or whatever. And people were often really, really keen to reciprocate.
Yeah. So two quick examples. This is, by the way, not just about video production for folks listening in. This is just, we're making an illustration here with what you've built here, Louis. In that, for example, you know the story of 12-year-old Steve Jobs? He calls the founder of Hewlett Packard. Have you heard this one?
What? No. Wait, is this when they made the blue box?
This is going to connect.
No, it's 12. That's way before they made
Young Steve Jobs at 12 years old. He's told the story of what he did back when he was around. Just out of the phone book, called up Bill Hewlett, founder of Hewlett Packard, and to request electronics components to build a frequency counter, whatever the hell that is. And it was so open and sharing of what he was doing that Hewlett, who was, a multimillionaire at the time, very impressed with this kid, offered him a job, which he took, and he ended up working at Hewlett Packard as a teenager in the summertime, helping out on whatever. So my point is, when you are just you, and you, my friend, you're the master of this, just share what you're doing. You're not selling, you're not pitching. You just tell people what you're about. And you just try to help people. And you're open and honest and transparent and forthright, and people can sense that. They want to help you, which is what ended up happening with young Steve Jobs, which is what happened with you. People like, hey, man, you should talk to a friend of mine. You remind me of a guy that I think you would get. You do this a lot too, by the way. You should talk to so-and-so because you guys have a lot in common. Right? Then you become the super connector. And business, as fancy as the AI tools get, goes back to the people thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the big mistake people are making right now. I'm all about the automation, and you are the master of it. But there's got to be two sides to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That a lot of it's really really easy to get not bogged down, but to feel like the pressure to make money in whatever it is that you're doing. But if you're rushing that, the quality of your outputs isn't going like my first video is not gonna win any awards or anything. Like maybe it will in like retrospect because of like what I did at the time of like what was able like that's like some after I've died kind of
Right.
fame type thing, right? But when I was making these videos, I just kept doing it. I just kept grinding at it. And with that consistency came improvement.
Bingo. So
And
you make
that's the
more
part that
money.
people try to skip. They're just like, "Oh, you know what? Like, I watched a YouTube video. They're talking about high ticket sales. I'm ready to jump into high ticket sales and start making like six figures overnight." And that's just not gonna happen. Like what you were saying earlier about the linear funnels. I'm not gonna spend $10,000 because I saw a YouTube reel and
Right.
I've never interacted with this person or company before in my life.
15 years ago, when Russell Brunson was pitching ClickFunnels for the first time, it did work. But today, nobody wants to be funneled. And by the way, you make more money in business when people know you're not there just to make money. I was working on Wall Street back in the old days, and there was big money clients that you knew if you could land them, you get paid. But I would pull, they were friends. They become friends over time. And you'd pull them aside and be like, listen, I want your business, but my bank that I'm representing right now really isn't great with this overseas thing you're trying to get done. You're better off going to Goldman Sachs. You had a quiet conversation like that your boss would never know about. You ended up getting way more business. And the point was, once they know you're not just trying to get into their pocket, well, now they want to find a way to do business with you. So when you're building these AI tools and you're showing these examples of the great things you can do with your skills that you're stacking now, you're still not pitching people, but that's what people are thinking in the back of their mind. Well, this guy's got something cool going on. I could really get been involved here with him. Like maybe I can help. And then they're asking you for the business versus you asking them.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And that's a much easier sell if
Heck yeah.
they're coming to you and saying, "Hey, I've seen that you've been putting out these articles, you've made this beautiful website, you know, you've established your with time." That's an important thing too. It's time is the part that you can't skip over.
Right.
Like my Instagram account and my Twitter account and my LinkedIn, they're all cohesive. They all have the same branding. That wasn't something that I didn't sit down on day one with a pencil and pad and say, I'm going to call myself Louis Pecan, and then I'm going to buy the domain, and then I'm going to create this logo, and then I'm going to do this and that. Like it's
It evolves.
it evolved. Yeah, exactly.
But yet everything you just said is what they teach in corporate, right? You sit down with a pen and paper, literally, and you write on a whiteboard, okay, we're going to be Louis Pecan, and we're going to have a campaign around this. And I want all the colors to be purple, and I want Bill Cipher in the background. Like that's not really how it works in the small business world of creative entrepreneurs.
No.
I mean, maybe you want to hire the Boston Consulting Group for $50,000 and they'll tell you that, and then you're good. But most people are going to be like, all right, I'm going to throw crap at the wall. We'll see what sticks. I found my audience. This is product market fit now. I don't have an exact idea of my aesthetic, but I start to see that I kind of, I myself, for example, I use crunchy guitar rock music on my outros for the shorts. I just like that. You know, you are very much into the meme culture. Great. And people start to know you for that. Right, even down to the hats and the vests and all that stuff. So being yourself becomes your brand, and that is a new concept in the business world.
It's your differentiating factors, and human beings are naturally intuitive. They can tell when you're being ingenuous.
So this
even
is
if they don't know like lie spotting techniques or like body language or anything, they can just intuitively be like, what's up with that guy, you know?
This is a very key point, Lou. I want to hammer this for people listening. This is not just a differentiating factor, as you say. It is the only differentiating factor in an AI world. You, the real you and who you are, is the only thing separating where people want to pay you money versus the skills that you have. Right? Yeah. I can push button copy any website, any tool. I can launch a SaaS company tomorrow that copies you name it. But I can't be the guy. I can't tell the story that Mark Cuban can tell. I can't. When Gary Vaynerchuk tells me how he used to be on Wine Library TV for 5 years for anyone listened, and now he lived it. That's a story. And you have yours, and I have mine, and people don't want to lean into that.
Yeah.
Especially the failures. Like, that's the piece people connect to. I'll tell you this. I worked on Wall Street, made a lot of money. Nobody cares. I started 5 years ago. I started my own business. Got kicked in the teeth trying to figure out. Oh my God! I need an offer. I don't have an offer. I never heard the term sales funnel. They don't teach you that in Wall Street. Like, I share those stories. People are like, dude, tell me more. How'd you do that? Right? Nobody wants to know about options trading. They want to know. So what's the sales funnel I should be working on now? What works today? How do I use these AI tools? So the mistakes is my point. The piece is the ugly side of when you got going, you really didn't know exactly what you were building, but you had a general idea. I want to build a brand. I'm going to figure it out as I go. But you showed up every day like you would go into the gym. And lo and behold, holy crap, I have abs. How did that happen?
Yeah, like on my Twitter account, I have a pinned thread, right? And actually, you were literally there when I did all this. Remember Mr. Frundles?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's where like Louis Vuitton and all that stuff started. Was when I was watching Rick and Morty and I saw Mr. Frundles and I was like, oh, I recognize that. That's a Grey Goo event, right? It's like this techno-apocalyptic event from a book,
right.
And I saw that and I was like, oh, like, like you said, meme culture. So I was like, oh, you know what? I recognize that. Let me try to do something with that. I commissioned an artist, didn't work out. I tried to do it myself, didn't work out. And so I went on Twitter and said, hey, I'm going to take a couple months to upskill. I'm going to teach myself Python. I'm going to learn how to make better art because the art that I'm putting out right now, it's not good enough. It's not high enough quality for me to attach my name to. Mm-hmm. And so I need to take a step back and reevaluate and upskill. And so that's when I started to learn Stable Diffusion, right? But the point of what I'm saying isn't to tell the origin story. It's just that today you can go to my Twitter account and you can look at the pinned tweet and see that it goes all the way back to that exact time and date to when I'm going to upskill and I'm going to learn this. And you can see what I did was I consolidated my efforts into one place so you can actually follow my journey. And that's the part that you can't skip. You need to have the hard work. You have to have the day one, day two. You have to have the journey.
So you're getting at a concept here I want to clarify for those listening. Authority and visibility. Your authority in what you do now, like you clearly know what you're doing, you're running a company off of this, comes from the visibility we all had into looking into your past. It's not for everyone, but when I wanted to maybe do business with Louis Vuitton, and I can go back and see that you actually do know your stuff. This is what you've been building over the years. It's the building in public thing. That's fascinating. Years ago, I was on Instagram ripping 1-minute clips on sales tips in 2016, 17, walking through the streets of Manhattan. I'm working on Wall Street at the time. Why don't I take those down? Why don't I go hide, bury those things, right? It's awful. It's embarrassing. Because you want to be able to prove to people that I've been at this. We were doing these talks 2 years ago, you and I.
Easy.
Right.
We didn't record any of them ever.
For those who would care, we would get on once a week for an hour and just talk about the latest AI tools, how business is changing, and two friends. And for years, a year and a half, we did probably on and off doing this. And now we decided we may as well start getting the stuff out there live. the point is, whatever you're building, don't be afraid to show the ugly warts in the history of how you got there, because that matters for potential prospects.
And it's how you improve.
Of course.
It's
That's
all
another one, by the way.
Every time you do something stupid, you have data that you can take from that, and you can iterate on that process. That first video I made, it was unique, it was novel, but I didn't do it with intention. I didn't say I want the camera to move this way and I want these elements to be there. But me just jumping right in is what gave me the ability to do so in the future.
But Louis, you had the humbleness. You weren't, the ego wasn't the problem for you, because a lot of people don't want to look stupid. They don't want to show, well, this is me learning. But guess what? We're at an elbow of history right now where everyone's learning AI. No one knows these tools really. I mean, you do, but most normal people don't.
Well, to quote Jake the dog, sucking at something is the only way to get good at it.
Yeah. Failure is the first step to success.
Yeah.
The problem is, especially in the corporate world, failure is punished. I mean, in the school world too. So you end up with a bunch of automatons who believe they really shouldn't be failing, or they can't show that they fail. And we got to switch mindsets before we can do anything about business building.
Agreed.
All right. Authority
versus this thing here.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's tell people what we're doing.
Okay, so
we're trying to build a business from scratch just to show it off. This is all just experimenting, building in public type stuff. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is we're fabricating a high-end consultancy, right? A coaching, mentoring, content strategy firm. And we're going to decide, A, you need an offer. B, you need to have its positioning mapped out. C, content visibility, like a strategy to get out there. A product ecosystem. The problem with the Russell Brunson funnel approach was always, you buy my stuff and then what? I got to go get new customers? That's not a business model. The magic mix today, in my opinion, 2025, you have a strong personal brand and you have a systemized business. That is the new unicorn. And so how do you do that? These tools will help you do that. Once you're pairing the actual brand, with the AI generated assistance, let's call it, then you've got something. So there's two pieces to this. I need to know that I'm building a company, and I need to be deliberate in how I do it. I don't know how I'm going to get up the mountain. I don't know exactly where my handholds will be, but I know I'm going to climb that mountain. And you need to know these tools. So these tools will eventually take the form of your employees, right? We're heading towards agentic workflows where instead of us just using these tools will do it themselves. But we're in the middle window right now.
User proxy, at least for the moment, there has to be like a human behind it that tells it what to do. Like you can't just hit research and then press enter.
Yeah, build my company. That's the common problem with ChatGPT and the LLMs right now. People are running into I don't get the results from it that I want. Mm-hmm. The problem is, if it has access to all of human knowledge and you're not getting the answer you need, it's you. You're not asking it right. This is the prompting question.
Yeah.
And that's not
also, most people haven't had 2 or 3 years of experience prompting. Most of these people and business owners, this is the first time that they're using it, or maybe they've only used it very casually. Like, what's a good recipe for, I don't know, air fried falafel or something like that. I don't know.
Not sure I want that.
Yeah. Air fried falafel.
Have you seen, there's a meme going around on Instagram mostly, but it's it'll be a ChatGPT generated prompt of I'm a realtor, help me sell this house. And it shows a cartoon picture of the guy trying to sell a house. Make it, try harder to sell the house. It shows more signs up. Try harder to sell the house. It eventually builds up until the planet has a giant stick on it with a sign, this is a house for sale, that's the whole universe can see. My point is, it's a meme, but this is the concept of prompting. This is what prompting is. You got to go back around and iterate and get this thing a better version of what you were trying to get it to do every time. And you'll get better at it as you go. But people, to your point, Louis, they're not trained in prompt engineering. And guess what? This is a necessary skill now. This isn't like it's cool to know it. If you're running a business, you better be the best damn prompter in your business space.
Yeah.
So how do you get there?
I've been learning. Well, so the first way to get there is to literally show up.
Bingo.
Just talk to it, talk to the machine, and you'll start to see when it's working the way that you want it to and when it's not. You'll be able to determine that just from looking at the outputs.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that you can learn like in a course or like on like a YouTube video. You really it's something that you learn experientially.
Yep.
And one of the things that but once you've gotten your style down, once you have the skill established, then you can learn more advanced techniques. Like some of the things that I learned were meta prompting. That's an advanced technique.
Explain it.
Before I create a prompt, right? I have a loose idea in my head. Like you see how I created this doc here, and I was like, here, let's just word vomit everything there into this document, and then we'll copy and paste it and provide that as contextual information.
Right.
That's an example of meta prompting, but the effective way to do it is to take this word vomit, bring it over to even a smaller model, right? Like you don't want to use a reasoning model for this step. Use like GPT-4 4.0, right? And what you'll do is you'll use that smaller model to articulate what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so you have the AI take your word vomit and create a prompt, the optimal prompt. Well, actually, that's not the optimal prompt, but create a better prompt to word it the way that the machine can understand, that you can understand, and you'll get the output that you want.
Yes.
The optimal format though is actually XML. And so here I have my customized GPT. So what I have here are my custom instructions, right? I'll just kind of read these really quick. I don't know how large or small they are showing up on the screen. So, okay. It's like I experiment heavily with advanced meta prompting techniques. My workflow involves pushing the capabilities of large reasoning models through complex hierarchical prompts that generate other prompts, enabling asymmetrical productivity. That right there alone, what normal person talks like this? Who's gonna say that?
I worked with a bunch of clients back in the street that they talk like that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like normal people don't.
But yeah. Have a robot say the things that you needed to say for you. You just have to guide it into what it is that you want to accomplish. But this XML format, it's the optimal prompt. Actually, that's like the trigger word that I use, right? Only apply the enhanced XML formatting and advanced reasoning style when I preface my prompt generation request with the phrase optimal prompt. So I even gave it a trigger word, so it's not always putting everything that I do into XML and using that prompting to do it.
So I wanted to real fast. Prompting is its own language, and how you speak to this machine is going to be different from how you speak to people. You got to learn it.
Yeah, it's just like learning Python,
yep.
Right? Or assembly, or C, or Rust, right?
But that's not what they're being sold. They're being sold it's a no-code solution. Just talk to it like you would. And yet,
I just don't see a future where everything is no code.
I agree with that.
You really do need to understand. Like, the reason why I say that you really need to understand prompting is because for example, this is actually one of the older examples that I used to use. Like, if you tell ChatGPT to write a blog, there's too much
absolute garbage.
ambiguity.
Yep.
A blog about what? in what type of voice, from what perspective, what is the goal of the blog? Like, it'll make a blog, no questions asked. It won't backtalk to you or anything like that. But
Yeah, but that's a much less
it's not going to
interesting
be high
blog.
quality.
That's
It's
a
not
much
going to be
less
interesting. No.
That's a much less valuable and interesting vlog, unless versus something like write a vlog about the top 5 mistakes most entrepreneurs make. Share a personal story of around this. You get tell what you did, and the 3 key takeaways people should remember going forward as they build. That's a much more interesting result.
Yeah, absolutely.
My point is that took people to think it through, and the way you frame up the ask is its own language. They're being sold a bill of goods out there, though. Like the pitch is no code. You push button. You can close high ticket clients without having to get on a call with them. You can build a business tomorrow. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or it only works that way on Instagram, apparently. So the next thing I would want to mention is don't amplify noise. Know what you're trying to get done. You're in the learning process. That's okay. AI amplifies whatever you want to do. You can do it at scale. But be pretty clear, like, what are you trying to do? Who do you help? All that stuff.
You can be anything you want in the world. You just have to know what that is.
All right. Philosophical point here. That's a problem. We've never lived in a world where you could be anything you want. Like, not really. When you were 7 years old and your parents said you could be whatever you want to be when you grow up, Louis. But like, then you grow up, you get a job, you try to pay the bills, and no one ever pulls you aside in the middle of making mortgage payments and be like, hey, man, you can be whatever you want. But guess what? As of November 2022, you can.
Yeah. All right.
So people have to start to realize, okay, I can build a business around my personal brand, my interests. I want this freedom that I see people attaining. That's why the creator economy has taken off. How do I do it? Well, these AI tools are supposed to enable me to, a golden road to freedom. And yet, I don't even know how to prompt the freaking thing. Well, that's what most people are right now.
Yeah.
So
a guy to bridge that gap outside of just kind of yammering on about what you should and shouldn't do. Like, do we just have more one-on-one conversations? Because that's not really scalable, like.
I think you share your skills that you're learning, you share your interests that you like, and people will find you.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I mean, that's what happened with you.
Well, I did that intentionally though, right? So like with my Instagram account, I literally am only following people that are relevant to my industry. So other filmmakers, other videographers, other artists, art directors, creative directors, people are the only ones that I'm following. Yeah, I've curated my feedback loop. So the same thing with my Twitter account. So if I make a post on Instagram of like my latest video, the only people that are going to see that are people that care about it. I'm not making these videos to attempt going viral for mass appeal. I'm appealing to my specific audience. And so that way when I'm on my feed, perfect example, if you go to Instagram, you create a brand new account, there's going to be a bunch of gobbledygook in your feed, right?
Yes.
But if you type in trucks, guess what you're going to see in your feed? A whole lot of trucks, right?
This is the old joke about you got to fix your feed.
You got to fix your feed. You got to start it over from scratch is what you really have to do, because what most people do is they'll create an Instagram account and then they'll put a picture of their face and then they'll add their family, add their best friends, people that they know in their neighborhood, and then they'll just let the algo give them whatever it is that they just jump to, right? Like, oh, like that, comment there, and then they'll get more of that without understanding that you're reinforcing what is being presented to you. So what I did for AI, right? I wanted to get into the AI space from the blockchain space, right? Because I guess I should kind of preface that a little bit. I lost a bunch of money in a metaverse project, got rugged, didn't quit, came back, tried to build another one, spent $10,000 or so on this on this metaverse project,
That's
and
awesome.
it ended up just being a very expensive lesson that really paid dividends, because what I wanted to accomplish, or what happened, was we built this nightclub. I walk around with my avatar and I realize it's boring. There's
Mhm.
no reason anyone's gonna wake up and ignore their phone and go log in and come to this coordinate, even though we spent all this money on making nice cars and all this, whatever, it doesn't matter. So what I did was I looked at it and I thought, this needs to be emotionally evocative. Long story short, I didn't think like that specifically at
No,
that
but that's a
moment,
great business point. I love it.
right? So I thought, okay, it's a dance club. What do people do? They come in here, they click dance, and their avatar's dancing, and then they're just looking at the screen. So
Right.
I thought, let's convert this dance club into a comedy club because there's a physical reaction. I drew a lot of that inspiration from my high school experience when the Chappelle Show came out.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it was a phenomenon. Every teacher, every student was quoting this show. It was huge. And so I thought, oh, that's like that transgenerational gap being bridged, like with music. Like I listened to some music from like the 60s and 70s. Obviously, I'm not that old, but my parents, my grandparents, they would play the radio while we're in the car, and I would hear these songs, and I would like, oh, like we were talking about, I woke up this morning, I was singing Photograph from Def Leppard. I wasn't around when that song came out,
Love
but
it.
I love it, right? Because that's something that I heard when I was in my formative years. Um, so
As an
anyway,
aside, as a quick aside, my teenager recently asked me if I'd ever heard of the band Pink Floyd. I'm like, I've heard
oh,
of them.
never. Are they new? They're Gen Z band, right?
Right. He goes, these guys are pretty good. I'm like, yeah, they are pretty good.
They're pretty good. I love that. Hey, you guys
So,
are kind of all right.
I want to make 2 points on something you commented on. Number one, 80-20 rule. 80% of the people are on these platforms consuming, 20% are producing. When you sat down and scrubbed your channel and were like, I'm going to make this thing now, my Instagram is going to be Louis Pecan, you were very intentional on, I'm producing stuff on these platforms. I'm not just here to passively post pictures of my family and consume whatever the algo serves me. So number one, get intentional about your usage of the platforms. But number two, you glossed over this, but it's an important point, and I want to just reiterate it, Louis. The long tail of the internet changes business in that it used to be you wanted a giant audience. You don't need a giant audience anymore. You talked about your people. You were making videos for the 20 to 50 people that are interested in that thing. You're not trying to land 10 million viewers so that 100,000 click your thing, so that 5,000 convert. Like, that is a very different mentality. We've evolved. People don't want that. They want a community, is the term you hear being used. I want to be in Louis' community. I am learning AI, video making. Hollywood is being transformed right now. I want to be one of those people. You're doing it. So my point is, whatever niche or interest you're in, I mean, I do a bunch of business strategy for people. People want a different form of community, and it doesn't involve mass numbers anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll point to the TikTok algorithm changing that. That when we moved from the social graph, where everyone that was connected to you saw your stuff, to the interest graph. They don't need to be connected. They just got to be interested in the same thing. Follower
Right.
accounts don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
That's news to people.
It's actually funny because that's my professional background is in digital marketing, and then I became a developer, right? So when I was first starting out on my like digital marketing journey, I would get a lot of really, really terrible advice, right? I didn't understand how to curate my feedback loop. I was just getting served whatever was coming to me.
Yep.
And like I bought courses, I watched hours of videos, but that wasn't the only thing I was doing. I was also acting. And so that action, those actionable steps that I was taking are what allowed me to see when I was getting bad advice, right? So like one of the first things that I heard was oh man, a classic, the sell me this pen,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah, everybody knows the sell me the pen, right? Yeah. But I didn't get that at first. I thought,
It's not
oh,
about the pen.
some kind of psychological like trick or something to get people to buy something they don't like. You got to be a master of words
Nope.
to coax them into like no, it's nothing like that at all. The whole point is just always swept under the rug. It's stop trying to sell things to people that don't want it.
Yes.
And that, when I learned that, when it finally in that sales was about alignment, that's when I started to act as a conduit. So I would talk to people and they would tell me their problem.
Yep.
They would be like, "Oh, you know, man, like I've been in this business for years, but I just that content thing, I just can't figure it out," or whatever it may be. It could be anything, right? And then I'll say, well, I don't quite have those skills yet, but on my journey to starting my own company, I met this guy that's really good at or whatever. And then I just
Yep.
bridged that gap. I just introduced the two people. And if that connection yields benefits for both parties, then I receive the reward. Maybe not like a monetary reward up front, but people realize like, oh, that was the person that made this connection. That was the problem solver. That was the glue.
Yep.
And so all of my business literally has been referral based. It's
No
all
coincidence.
about my reputation.
Bingo. Which is the connection between personal brand and reputation. I want to comment something. Number one, that's a mindset shift you went through. Most people are still connecting like the sell this pen thing to the magic silver tongue gift the gab words guy.
Yeah.
It's service mindset is what's the best thing for this potential person. They may not become a customer, but how can I help them? You went through that, and that was a different. Number two, you say curate the feedback loop. That means alter your feed. Get rid of the people that aren't going to be potentially interested in your stuff. Get the people in that are. And number three, we become something new now in this AI-driven world every few years. You were a digital marketer back in the old days. Then for a while, you were doing promotional for indie bands. Then you were doing Hollywood AI movie making. Like these are all different avatars that you're hitting, if you will. You yourself were changing because your skill stack was changing because your interests were changing. And so we have to get used to the fact that my dad worked for 30 years for the same company. Like that's not going to happen anymore. But it's not even going to be a few years. It's 2 to 5 years in an AI world. We all need to become something new. That's not something folks are comfortable with yet. When I was on Wall Street, I was a Wall Street trader. I bought and sold stocks for hedge funds. Later on, I quit, started my own company, and I'm the ghostwriter for CEOs. So I'm a ghostwriting agency. For a short time, I was doing social media marketing. These days, I'm doing course creation and content training for these corporates, and now solopreneurs. These are all different businesses, but we evolve.
Yeah.
It's not an accident.
You said that we have to change.
Yes.
But I feel like really we get to change.
Oh, I like that.
Because when I said this actually to you yesterday when we were chatting, but when did I become a filmmaker? When did I become an artist? When
officially never, and unofficially the moment the idea hits you in the head.
Right? Like I was just showing up every single day and just pursuing my passions. AI really allowed that. It removed a lot of the pressure of I have to grind and I have to do this, I have to make this stuff happen the right way. It took me away from doing things specifically for money and doing things specifically for passion, not motivation. Motivation is very fickle. Like I can be motivated to go to the gym and then, eat too many French fries, and now I'm like, oh well, that's not gonna happen. I'm so bloated right now, or whatever.
Right.
I really learned a lot of that from behavior design, and I'm not gonna beat that dead horse because I've talked to you about that a million.
I love
times.
it. Share a small answer for the folks who don't know what that is. What is behavior design?
What I'll share is this this framework, this equation that I learned from this book, Tiny Habits by Dr. BJ Fogg. And it's B equals MAP, B map. So behavior happens when motivation, ability, and a prompt converge. And so the example that I like to use, it's the example from the book, or one of the examples from the book, is scrolling on your phone. Every human being has to go to the bathroom a few times a day. And one of those times is right when you wake up. So why would we go against our natural urges, right? To scroll on our phone first thing in the morning. Well, that habit, that behavior happens when the motivation, which is the dopamine hit, right? From your finances, romance, text messages, social interactions, everything that's on the internet, comedy, whatever, right? The ability is, where do you charge your phone? I know I charge my phone on the nightstand, arm's reach. I don't
Yep.
have to get out of bed. I don't have to touch the cold floor. I mean, we have carpet, but you know, like, you don't have to touch the cold floor. You don't have to like unfurl the blankets or
You
anything
made
like
it
that.
easy.
Boom, very easy, super easy. And then the prompt is like the most devious part of it. It's when you regain consciousness from a night's sleep.
Yes.
You have to sleep
You've
and you
trained your
have to
body.
wake up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
the
get
easier it is to do and the more rewarding it is to do, the more likely it is that you'll do it. So the secret sauce here, this is what I used in my own personal life to quit smoking cigarettes, to quit drinking, to do a lot of things actually. Um, is you add friction to the things that you don't want to do and you remove friction from the things that you do want to do. So both of my parents have diabetes. If um and I like to get stoned and eat snacks like gummy bears and like hot Cheetos and stuff, right? So what I'll do is, on my desk where I spend 12 hours a day, sometimes most of the time, I'll leave like trail mix and like dates and things
Yep.
like that. Like, you know, like my
Much
wife will
healthier.
bring in like a plate of broccoli,
You're gonna eat
right?
whatever's there anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat whatever's in arm's reach, right?
Yep.
As opposed to getting in the car, going to the store, buying a bag of hot Cheetos, and then eating them and feeling shitty,
Right.
right? So, and the trick is to set things on my desk that I can't eat in an entire sitting. You know, like, you're not gonna eat 5 pounds of almonds in one go, no matter how stoned you are. It's
Right.
not
Yes.
gonna
Not
happen,
5 pounds. So
right?
you're getting at something though, Keith. People understand this intuitively in the physical world. I get up at 4 in the morning to go running, and my shoes are right next to my bed. I'm going to go running more likely anyway than if I have to go fish around the closet to find them. I'm not going to do that at 4 in the morning. So I
Yeah.
get that in the physical world. You're getting at digital discipline, right? I need to be on top of myself in the digital world and the habits I form there. Remember, we're building a business. As much as I would normally, that I want to be on top of my weight, or I want to be, yoga, meditation, I want to mindset development. It's the same thing in, where do I get online? What apps am I on the most? Like, I can tell you this: a lot of people don't even know, what app do I write the most in.
Mm,
iMessage, Notion,
yeah.
LinkedIn posts. Like, where do I do most of my writing? It's pretty simple. Most people don't know. So the first step is understand yourself and how you operate, and then find your own hacks and tweaks in the digital sense.
Yeah, people are definitely going to hear me say a lot of these things a lot, because this stuff isn't like something I just like learned from a video and I'm just parroting back. These are like,
You lived it.
this is stuff that I lived. And like, one of those things is KFC. It's this acronym that I found when I like first became a digital marketer, right? It's know what you want, find out what you're getting, and then
Mm-hmm.
change what you do until you get what you want.
I love it.
That
I
was
love
my
it.
mantra. That's what that's how I was able to shift my mindset, how I was able to navigate through these different paths and rabbit holes and figure out where I wanted to go and how I was going to get there.
I'll tell you a personal story. My 16-year-old is playing Helldivers every night till all hours of the night.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's now getting into lifting weights, and he's like, I want to start bulking up a bit. Great. So I'm like, I teach him how to use ChatGPT, but so we got a fitness GPT. He's working around with the thing. He's loving it. Comes to me the other day, and he's like, Dad, I realize this thing's telling me that based on my current sleep habits, I really can't bulk the way I want to because I'm not getting enough rest for bodybuilding. And I'm like, well, dude, if you're getting like the professional level of Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilding, yeah, that sleep, water, nutrient, like all that matters. He's like thinking hard about this. I've been yelling at this kid to go to bed on time for 2 years. But suddenly, when he wants it internally, because he connected the dots to something that he wants, I don't even have to say anything. He's now like, I got to figure out how to get more sleep. Great. Wow. You went through that yourself. Like you connected your KFC was, what do I want? Know what you want, and then I got to figure out how to get it. People have to do that exercise, and this is all part of business building, wealth creation, designing your lifestyle, whatever you want to call it. It's being intentional in how you live in a digital world.
Yeah, exactly that. And then also, like, if you don't want to do something, forcing yourself to do it will make it that much harder.
Yeah.
Like I'm leaning into what I already want to do. Just like I'm not selling people on something they don't want. They want to do something. I'm just helping them do it with less friction. That's the whole secret sauce. Your kid wants to bodybuild. It's not like you're like on his ass every day, like, why aren't you in the gym? Get out, go run a lap, go, like, that's what he wants to do.
Right.
So of course he's gonna connect those dots and say, in order to get the thing that I want, I need this, that, and the third.
Right. So like 6 months ago, my cousin turns me on to the Y-Files. It's a great YouTube channel for those who don't. It's just like conspiracy exploration. It's basically like the what ifs in the world. And it's a great little, like, after all day of doing business, as you know, I frankly want like an escapism thing just to get away from. I want some fictional fun. Are aliens real? Bigfoot, all that stuff. Great. So I'll listen to this as I'm falling asleep. Well, I'm starting to get into it, and a couple months ago, I realized I'm actually staying up a little later to listen to the whole end of this thing. And in the morning, I'm having trouble getting out of bed to go hit the gym, which I've done for 15 years. And I'm like, all right, we've crossed the line now. As much as I enjoy this, it's violating my sense of self here. So now we don't listen to that stuff going to bed anymore. Like we've decided we're going to manage this. Same thing as my son with I could tell him I'm blue in the face, but when he's decided, okay, the priority is going to be getting fit. In your case, the priority is building a brand. Or whomever's listening to this, whatever your priority is, this is a concept of a pyramid. What sits at the top? And the corporate world will confuse you of multiple priorities. But the definition of a priority is one thing is the most important.
Yep. Yeah. That is the truth. Exactly.
Anyway, all right. You and I can ramble, man.
Yeah, we didn't even get into this like actual.
The point of this broadcast, folks, is to build a company like a fictional to walk you through how to do it.
Well, I mean, I would say that it's really just for us to chat because it's not.
We're gonna try to use an example, but yeah,
it's really not an agenda or anything that we need. It's just articulating our thoughts, getting it out there, and then having these conversations be available for other people to see. Because for the last 2 years, we've been talking and having conversations much aligned with these topics, but no one can see them. They're ephemeral. As soon as we hang up, that conversation is in our mind. We ruminate on it, we pontificate, and then it becomes air. Right. Maybe we extract some value from it, but the point of these live streams is so that other people can extract value from it.
Yeah, I mean, in February 2025, where we are right now, people don't know what to do. The world's changing fast. They know everyone's worried about labor is disappearing, AI is stealing their job. I should be building a creator business on the side. I should learn how to use these tools. Even what are these tools for? There's so many of them. And it's different every week, it seems. You know this better than anybody. The goal was we talk about it because it helps us, and if it can help other people too, great. Because there's no like Library of Alexandria to learn about AI right now. There's no place that you're going to go and be like, well, what's good? Because I don't know if you get this, but I get this a lot. Where do you learn about this stuff? Where do you go? Because you seem to know a bunch of things. Where do you go? I'm like, there's nowhere to go. You get out there and you stub your toe. Right. You talk about it with your friends. Like back in the stock market trading days, nobody knew what the stock was going to do in 5 minutes. So all these hedge funds would talk to each other on chit chat all day. Yeah. News is coming out. There's an earthquake in Manila. What does that mean for NVIDIA's chips? Like, this is the type of stuff that you're not going to go somewhere to get that information. You just got to kind of ruminate on it with a friend who thinks like you think. And that's the purpose of this conversation.
That's the point of this conversation. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Bingo. Which I got to credit you for this. You had said this even back when we should just record these. Just put it on wax and see what it does. Because this is not meant to,
if we sound stupid. I mean, we're not going to sound stupid, but like we're just doing this for us. We're just talking. There's no like we have like maybe some talking points or something here and there, but it's not
even really
anything like concrete.
Honestly, there's no shoe to drop. This isn't meant as a lead gen or a pitch. If you guys want to work with either one of us, that's great. Keith does AI consulting. I do brand building positioning. But the reality is this isn't meant as that. The world's changing fast. It doesn't matter what business you're in. You don't know where to go to get information. What do we need to know? Like how people helping people in general in any area is always the way forward.
Yeah, agreed. And you know what? I have a really interesting point to that, right? I don't remember where I heard this, but it was recent. It was like maybe a month ago or something. But if you take one human and you put them in the forest, they're going to die. They're toast, right? But if you put 500 of us in a forest, we're going to terraform that thing.
Yep. There'd be houses, farmland, fences, weapons.
Yep. We won't go quietly into that night.
No.
Not when. So the point of that is that no crisis is insurmountable when we cooperate.
Right, but the concept of cooperation changes in a digital world where you have to attract your people or find your tribe.
Agreed. Yeah, because they're not just in the physical proximity with you. You actually have to seek them out. That's why curating your feedback loop is so important, so invaluable.
When I launched 5 years ago as an entrepreneur, and I'm running a content strategy firm, essentially doing ghostwriting for CEOs, but I'm just doing work. And Alex Hormozi comes out with the $100 million offer book, and I'm like, oh, I need to have a clear offer. Like, duh. And like, no, I don't hang out with the folks in the digital marketing world. Of course they know that. That's what they do, is build offers and funnels. So my first exposure to guys like Russell Brunson back in the day, I went to Grant Cardone's 10X conference in 2018, and like, there was a gazillion little hymns. And I'm like, oh, I don't really belong here. But if you get around the people that are doing the things you want to do, it's funny how you learn. But what is it? You can't hang around the barbershop long enough or you end up getting a haircut?
Right. Yep.
So, exactly. But people don't take the time to do that. Like, what's your crowd? You got to build it or find it.
Yeah. Like for me, that whole story about the Mr. Frundles thing, right? I wanted to get into an art collective on the Cardano blockchain specifically. And what I did was I created a portfolio. I said, I want to do this. So I made a portfolio. I started to make art, and they accepted me.
Yep.
Eventually I got into another art collective that was more aligned with what I was doing in the video world. And so through them, someone joined our Discord server. How could I not shout these guys out? The AI Film Gorillas.
Right.
That's my home. Those are the people that I rock with. The AI Film Gorillas. And in our Discord server, this person joined. His name was Todd, and he's the founder of Fabric, FRBC.com. AI and like AI on the law. Like he's involved in a lot of these LA AI groups. And he invited us to a party at his house. I'm the only one that lives in California, so I was able to show up. I go to his house and there's just a bunch of corpos there, like people from like Nvidia, Meta, Warner Brothers and stuff. So those weren't the people that I really like hung out with. Like I
Mhm.
talked to them, I had really engaging conversations. I got a lot of their contact information, had more conversations down the line. But the people that I actually hang out with, the people that I talk to, and I spend all day in group chats with, I met them through that group. They're called Machine Cinema, and they're traditional LA filmmakers, but they needed someone like me to assist on the technology side because I just had so much hands-on experience with all the tools from like what I said earlier about just signing up for them indiscriminately and signing up for events indiscriminately. And I just started to participate and contribute more and more. And one of the things that I did to contribute was I would just volunteer. Hey, we need somebody to help with running this Instagram account. I'll do it. Hey, we have a a creative treatment for this pharmaceutical company. I'll do it. And
Mhm.
like I just kept volunteering and I kept getting more work. I kept building that portfolio, that that track record,
That's
and
exactly right.
that's
So,
how you
so
build reputation.
this is what people don't recognize, that you have to go just put yourself into it and be around the people you want to be around. When I was on Wall Street and I ended up leaving, it was an easy sale for me to go back to these folks in corporate and be like, listen, these social platforms can help sell your business. They were like, what do you mean? You build a personal brand online. If you're a fintech and you're the CEO and you're well known in the fintech space because of your company has a higher valuation. There's like news to them. So all of a sudden, the way Machine Cinema needs you as the operative piece, you're the API for what they're trying to get done. You can
Yeah.
digitize their world of movie making. In the same way, I was able to digitize the world of personal brand for these executives into the platforms. So my point is, you knew your skills, and you kind of knew how you could bridge this for these people. That's a key understanding for
I
many people.
didn't
They don't
know.
like.
I didn't know. I was just showing up. I just all I knew was I've made over at the time I made like 150 music videos
It's
that
a lot.
it's a lot, right? And so when I joined Machine Cinema or when I was invited to join, we had the first event that I went to was a work in progress dinner. And so what we did was we all had like a potluck style like gathering at one of their houses. I show up and then they have a projector in the living room and we all kind of gather around the couch. And everyone that was attending had 5 minutes to stand up and talk about and present whatever it was that they were working on, video, art, business, whatever it was. And that that IRL interaction is what really so many of my connections came from
Yep.
because people were able to see the real version of each other.
The real you. So
The
back when
real
you and
you.
I, this is interesting. Like you're a former digital marketer doing now AI Hollywood movie making, right? And theoretically, and I'm a former Wall Street trader doing basically business coaching. There's no reason you and I should ever know each other. However, when we first crossed paths, I was running content strategy for a Cardano-based multiplayer game on Cornucopias on the
Yeah.
Cardano blockchain, and you were doing Cardano projects. So
Yeah.
for a
I
short
was trying
time,
to get into that art
right.
collective.
And as it turned out, even though we had radically different backgrounds, you're from the West Coast, I'm from the East Coast, we're obviously different looking people. It was
Yeah.
like, no, you guys are brothers from another mother because you've got this shared interest. And suddenly it was fascinating to have conversations with each other, which is what led to what we're doing here, because, hey, we were kind of going in the same direction, but didn't know
Right.
it.
Right. And we were slowly finding our voice, finding the flow state, the path of least resistance, which
Right.
is something I learned from another book called Effortless by Greg McCohen. And I absolutely devoured that book in one sitting. It was only like 500 pages or so, but I remember I was on a walk. That's something that I do a lot. There's a word for it too. A flaneur. It's like a middle class man that just walks and experiences the cityscape without any path or destination. I'm just exploring.
We call those
And
people homeless in New York.
yeah.
I'm kidding. Keep going.
So what I did was oh, I forgot what I was talking about.
Well, you were walking in the book.
Oh, effortless. That's right.
Mhm.
So I was just walking one day and I found 2 copies of that book. And it's
No
got a
way.
white cover. And so it was brand new, pristine, and they were just sitting there like in like I don't know, just like on like a little off of the sidewalk.
It's amazing.
And I don't know, I was just compelled. I mean, it's a book, it looked clean, and I was like, "Okay, let me" probably shouldn't have been touching that, but I did. I took
I'm not a believer in coincidence. Honestly, that stuff, whatever, make of it what you will. But the good thing, it turned you onto a concept that you needed to be turned on to.
Yeah, it absolutely did, and I shared that book with a lot of people. I actually gave away both copies after I finished reading it, but I read it in that same day that I got it,
It's
and,
fascinating.
digital age, so it's not like I was, there was any shortage of distractions or things to do online or anything like that. It was just
Yeah.
such a compelling read. So I really gotta give kudos to Greg McKeown for his authorship.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I always love that personal development side of you. I'm similar. Like you dig down deep enough, and both of us are coming from a similar background of I want to improve myself. Like there's a lot of people like this, and so there's a whole. I like the term personal development. I hate the term self help. But this concept of improvement, iterative improvement, is essentially what all this technology allows us to do now, and you can do it in the business sense. So you need to start as that type of person, in my opinion, and inevitably, if you have a faster, better way to do it, which is what these tools enable, it's just you being you. It's a better way to do it.
Yep. Just like these live streams, it's just us being us.
We should probably wrap this up soon because we'll go forever unless you want to keep going.
Let's like just review our output from deep research before we sign off though. I read through a little bit of it, but I had to keep jumping back, to communicate.
No, I know. I'll talk your ear off.
Yeah, I can actually just share this with you even.
Yeah, share it up.
Private chat. There you go. And just kind of give me like some feedback. Like, let's like maybe give it like 1 or 2 iterations, right?
Yep.
Take it a little bit further than what it is.
All right. So first of all, this is an extensive. We're trying to improve a business called Invictus Communication. It's a coaching and consulting for executive senior level folks. Basically, clients are unfamiliar with AI and they're interested. They just don't know how to do it. So I'm looking at the refining of the business strategy. It's got some really good insights here, I think, on the methodology, ways for best practices, establishing goals. I'm scanning this now for the first time, so I'll give you first impressions. It's explaining that senior executives face unique pressures and helping me to know the avatar, if you will. I already know that, but that's good. I recommend some case studies. That's great. And then it gets into the AI piece. What are some strategies that will introduce the AI concepts? Like senior executives are the folks who need to know AI the most. This is me just talking right now, and they know it the least. Like a guy like yourself who's not trying to impress his boss and is actually playing in the sandbox and building stuff is going to know it the best, which is why you do. But the folks who are leading teams in corporate world in suit and tie, they can't afford to look stupid. Oftentimes, they don't really just take the time to learn these things. So also there's a non-technical aspect to this, meaning a lot of AI is intimidating to people that don't know tech. And so you have to adjust how you're teaching people for that. Integrating it, right? There's all kinds of upskilling programs to learn AI, but people want hand-holding, especially in the financial services sector. It's giving insights here into content strategy for senior executives. Find out what their top priorities are. What is the value you could really deliver for them? Like the AI sounds great on paper, but what does that translate to in practicality for them? And it might be different for each person, for each company. So one person wants to use AI to boost productivity by 50%. The next person needs it to help build their, sales distribution. Not the same thing. Leveraging peer insights. There are oftentimes, different ways that we're doing right now a live chit chat, you and I. But there could be Q&As, there could be guests, there could be, formalized webinars and podcasts, a roundtable fireside chat. These are all different types of content strategy to get insights out of people. So it's just you're suggesting through the machine here different ways that I could do that, which is great. Formats that executive leaders enjoy the most, right? Where are these folks? Oftentimes, they're coming through like a multi-platform approach is best, but most professionals, at least the folks I'll be targeting, they're LinkedIn. It's all on LinkedIn. So obviously that's the most important platform. And on LinkedIn, certain things work better than others. Dude, we're old enough to remember back when it was all about polls. Remember when LinkedIn, the polls was the thing? Instagram. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then it wasn't. And then it was carousels. And then it wasn't. And like all that algo hacking doesn't get the job done. It's knowing the person and knowing what formats work best with them. I'm going with what the machine is telling me here. Mm-hmm. Long form formats, I can tell you now as an aside, today they're working better than they were, a year ago. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's all you should be doing. Virtual events. People want IRL now, by the way. You know this, Louis. That's like the value of a dinner or actually getting to shake hands with somebody.
Right.
What are some examples of successful content strategy out there in the industry? Who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong? I know, I'm sure you have your opinions when you look at your world of Hollywood movie making. I look at the same thing. I'm like, okay, in the corporate coaching world, these people have literally no presence. They have zero game on these platforms. Guys like Justin Welsh, Dan Coe, like they're killing it because they're
consistent.
Right. They've shined a light on this gap, which is why they're doing so well and good for them. Positioning and branding, right? Everyone knows the formal way to do it. Positioning is a thing in corporate, but if you're an executive coach, you're a creator, you don't have that kind of backing, training, or money to build that out. So how do you do it? Building trustworthiness, authenticity, like what we're doing here. There's nothing more authentic than this. This is why guys like Donald Trump win elections. They get to get on a podcast like Joe Rogan, and you get to watch them think as there's a question that's, what would you do with blah, blah, blah?
In real time, not some canned response that's gone through PR and all these people, right?
And without getting into the politics of it, because I don't really care, I'm making the example of people want that from you and I. Before I'm going to give you money as a business, I need to know how you think, because that's what I'm really buying. Ultimately, is you. It's not just that you can use these tools.
Yeah. They could use the tools themselves.
Right.
It's right there.
So let me ask you this. If you can change your own oil, why would you bring it to your mechanic? You don't want to. He's going to do a better job. He's more efficient at it. Like, there's a million reasons. It works the same way with these AI tools. Personal branding as a leader is something I want to mention. This brings it up here, which is great. I like this. But when I say a leader, I don't mean like Chief Executive CEO Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan. I mean like you and I are the executive leaders of our firms. And you may have nothing but agents and, machines working for you, but you're the leader. And people want to know, how does the leader operate? How does he think, or she? Like, what makes them them? And this thing's going into it here.
About that on All In too.
Tell me.
The All In podcast?
No, I know it. What'd they say?
Oh, yeah. They were talking about that it's going to, the one specific section that I'm talking about, they were discussing when we'll see an AI CEO, like an AI-led company.
Oh, yeah.
And Mark Andreessen's response was that it's actually, we'll probably see that it'll take more time than we think, because like a larger organization, they have protocols, they have methodology, they have mechanisms, a lot of moving parts, where you'll need a lot of intention in order to find what parts of the business can be adapted or augmented by AI. Whereas with a brand new company, you can start from that.
Yep.
You can say, okay, we want our business to be led by these particular AI agents, or we want to instill agents into these specific roles. That's a lot easier to do from scratch than it is because with the Transformers paper, Attention Is All You Need, that was published by Google. Google is too large of an organization to take every single research paper that comes out from their internally and then turn that into a product.
Right.
But their loss is the gain of a smaller, more versatile, more agile company.
I'm going to give you an example that you will love. There's a scene in the Avengers where Tony Stark is getting overrun by the Chitauri in his Iron Man armor, and the nuke is coming in to Manhattan. And he yells to Jarvis, "Put everything we got into the thrusters." And Jarvis responds, "I just did." So the point I'm making here is this is an AI machine that knew the intent and the ultimate goal of the CEO, right, Tony? It knows that the goal here is to don't let New York City be nuked. So it's anticipating this, but that doesn't happen unless there's a leader, someone who's laying down, this is what we're trying to get done here. The AI can manage stuff, yes, and the AI can think and it can be creative, and that is all true. But that's not the same thing as you, the human, have to lead the machines. And so you end up in the model that you had described to me, Louis. A company is reproduced in sense of nodes, that the node of the finance team is taking care of the billing. The node of the marketing team is agents that work on the marketing of the thing. There'll be a leadership node that is AI agents that are making decisions on what's the executive directions we should be considering. But ultimately, there's a person that's going to oversee this. It's almost like you have a jockey and a stable of horses, but the jockey is still going to be needed because could it run on its own? Sure. But that's not the point.
Right.
Anyway, I think that people don't realize that yet. It's your job as a creator or a solopreneur or a small business owner. You can challenge these big companies now, but you got to build your stable.
Wow, that's perfect. That's perfect. Is that the stream?
That was the stream.
That's the stream. All right. So we did get some actionable steps out of that. I literally took the report that Deep Research gave me, and I just said turn this into an actionable, a step, an outline of actionable steps for the next 24 hours. So I'll send that to you if you don't have it, and we can probably review that next time or something like that. It doesn't matter.
Dude, the one thing I want to add is that at the back end of this thing, which is extensive, by the way, that's a nice report, is very detailed where it got its information from. There's inputs here from anyone from Daniel Priestley to the McKinsey Research. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the stream.
All right, well, we'll be back next week, God willing.
Yep.
If anybody wants to learn more about what Keith does, do you want to tell them about AI consulting, what Louis Pecan does?
Well, they can just see my website right there, louispecan.com. They could see it through the whole stream. You should probably do that too. Just put your little website there.
So for those who are listening still at an hour and 34 minutes, Louis will help you with AI consultancy and helping automate what you've got, workflows, agentic processes, whatever you need. And my role here is, and Victus does branding, positioning, business strategy, and coaching.
And if anybody was listening for an hour and 34 minutes, they would just go to our website or whatever. Yeah. We don't have to that's something that I don't like about YouTubers. I don't need you to tell me how to use YouTube. I know where the like button is. I know what subscribe does.
So you've done this yourself. I know I have. I've been like, there was a dude on a podcast that you don't know who the guy is, but you're like, who's this guy? There's no information, and you will scroll through the internet to find this person.
Yeah.
If you want to, you will. And if you don't, it didn't matter how many links. Right. Then you can tell me 5 websites and 15 social handles. I don't give a crap.
Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
why I make that's why I use those same, like, those naming conventions, like, of monosyllabic English words, 4 characters roughly, easy to say, easy to read, easy to spell, easy to remember, right?
Right.
So Louis Pecan across all platforms, always. LouisPecan.com. There's no big brain thing that you have to figure out. You don't have to guess how to spell it or anything like that. So
That's why, as your branding specialist, I told you to go with onomatopoeiaappomattoxcourthouse.com, but you said no. I don't think that was smart, personally.
definitely left some money on the table with that one.
That's onomatopoeia starts with an O. Anyway, dude, it's always a pleasure. It's fun chatting with you, and I appreciate you setting this up and the time spent. I know it's valuable, but this is a lot of fun.
Tango, man.
Same here, my man. We'll be back next week. I'm looking forward to it. If you're up for it, I am.
Hell yeah. Peace.
All right. Peace.